Salutations, respected viewers. I am George from Ireland. This video is going to be a debate, and the motion will be, this House believes in the United Ireland. So I'll kick off as the proposition, of course. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the House, this House believes in United Ireland for numerous reasons. For historical reasons, because it makes geographical sense, and it makes economic sense. It is the settled will of the vast majority of Irish people. Brexit makes the reunification of Ireland all the more urgent, because, well, the opposing side is just rebarbative. Well, we don't have time to go into the history of the last couple of millennia, but anyway, Ireland has been a nation longer than almost any other. Ireland was united voluntarily, and the people of Ireland have clearly wanted to be a united and fully an independent country since the late 18th century, at least, since the United Irishmen were around there. Now, we only joined the United Kingdom on New Year's Day 1801 through what the architect of the Act of Union called the fee simple of Irish corruption. That's what Viscount Castlereagh himself said. A British Prime Minister, W.E. Gladstone, who wished to preserve the Union in some form, even he said the Act of Union was passed by corruption of the grossest character. And Arthur Griffith, the founder of Sinn Fein, he observed that the Irish Parliament had no legal power to terminate its own existence by voting for the Act of Union. So legally it is a nullity, and it is against the express wish of a clear majority of the Irish populace. And forgive me for having a millenarian view of things, but this will be the completion of Irish history when those 6 counties, which are wrongfully part of the United Kingdom, come back to the Republic of Ireland, and we have a 32-county republic. Now, it's true that Ireland is a EU member state, still retains very considerable autonomy, and can pursue an independent foreign policy and have its own army and all the rest of it. But that is because a clear majority of Irish people wish to be part of the European Union, which is completely different from a brutal illegal occupation, such as was foisted upon us by the English invaders. So we have our nationality, which is clearly a nationality. No one could dispute that. No one would say that we're not Irish or Irish people don't exist or something like that. I know there are other nations where it's debatable whether the nation exists, but not in the case of Ireland. We have a distinctive culture that is our collective individuality, from our language to our dancing to our cuisine. I could be here all day. And as I say, Brexit has really made this a very pertinent issue. And it's very germane to us because trade will be disrupted in Ireland. There's this bogus border, and it's not a border between 2 separate countries. It's across the middle of one country. It must go. It's an artificial border. And borders can be man-made. We've got a very excellent one made by God, and that is the Irish Sea. That's the obvious and logical place for the frontier to be fixed. So majority of people in Northern Ireland now want to leave the UK and join the Republic of Ireland, and their wishes ought to be implemented. This is an unmissable opportunity to reshape Ireland and build a brighter, happier future and eternal peace. Look how affluent the Republic of Ireland is. For centuries we were impoverished by the depredations of the English occupiers, and they spread rampant ruin in our land. Our wealth was plundered, and we were exploited by rack-renting, avaricious landlords. And now we're the 5th richest country in the world per capita, despite having almost no natural resources. It's just the genius and the industry of the people has raised us up to such a high level of development. So that's why so many businesses from the UK are moving to Dublin, particularly in the wake of this moronic Brexit decision. Now, another thing is unionists have got nothing to worry about. However revolting the Orange Order is, they can still carry on their marches because we respect civil liberty. Look at the Good Friday Agreement, the guarantees for the nationalist minority. In a 32-county republic, those guarantees would still apply. Their rights will be respected. Now, even within a 32-county state, we could have devolution for 6 counties or something like that. We could recognise the special and unusual identity of a segment of Northern Ireland's population because we're very reasonable people and we'll meet them halfway. So look at it geographically. It's preposterous that a fairly small island is split like this between 2 sovereign states. It just doesn't make sense. There'd be an economy of scale if we were larger. And the United Ireland would be larger, obviously, in territory and population. and there will be no conflict. Unionists would simply see sense and accept it. And so we'd obviously all have access to this EU market, which has enriched us so very much, and not just enriched us in the pecuniary sense. Our human rights would be upheld by the European Convention on Human Rights, and scandalously, the United Kingdom was talking about withdrawing from that, which was written in 1948. So the UK is going back over 70 years in terms of development of human rights. So, as De Valera used to be said, reunited Ireland would be better for Great Britain too, which would no longer be drawn into this intractable conflict. The whole idea of Britishness is nonsense. It's a false consciousness. It's really a code word for English. It's just greater England. It's England writ large. It's internal colonialism. And what of our opponents? Loyalism is sectarianism. It's thinly disguised. It is hideous. It is repugnant to any right-thinking person. It is unconscionable that the indefeasible rights of the Irish people should be denied to us because of these knuckle-dragging thugs who are loyalists. So we say no to British nationalism, which is an offensive nationalism. Irish nationalism is a defensive nationalism. We despise this little Englander mindset. It's just closed-minded, it's insular, it's xenophobic, it is racist. However people try to conceal it, strip it of all disguise, you'll see what it really is. It's pernicious, it's retrograde, it's reactionary, it's exclusionary. So we really have no truck with that sort of atavistic ethno-nationalism. And that was the bigotry which has spread from Brexit. We don't want it to metastasize over to Ireland. We embrace modern, multiracial, multicultural Ireland, and many of us are proud that our Taoiseach is half Indian. So for the reasons I've already adumbrated, reunification of Ireland as a 32-county republic is long overdue, and it's destined to happen. That is the way Irish history is going, and no man can fix the limit to a march of a nation, as Parnell said. So for historical, economic and geographical reasons, we demand the reunification of Ireland. Right, so now I'm going to be the opposition, of course. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the House, we're opposed to the reunification of Ireland on the basis that was set out. And why are we against it? For a number of reasons. Because of democracy, history, geography, culture, economics, identity, justice, and indeed law. Right, Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. Even the other side of the House didn't really dispute that. Obviously, the pro-union parties have won the elections time and again, and you see in the opinion polls, most people want to stay in the UK, not by as high a majority as was once the case. It was fascinating before Brexit. A high majority of Catholics, 75% of Catholics in Northern Ireland, wished to be part of the UK. It's true that many of them voted for the SDLP, but they still wanted to be part of the UK. And obviously that shows you sectarianism. They are pro-union, but they vote for a nationalist party with a complete want of logic. And okay, often these Catholic crypto-unionists, they will not be making a song and a dance about it. They will not be waving the union flag, but that's what they are. So you can be pro-union in a completely modern way, which has nothing to do with King Billy. Right, you can be Irish and British. There's absolutely no contradiction between them, as you can be English and British, Scots British, Welsh and British. Or these ethnic minority people, we often say they're British Indian, they're British Chinese and so forth. So the notion of what being British is has changed, has expanded. We're a much more inclusive and welcoming society, and one of the most ethnically diverse countries in the world. That's the United Kingdom, which is obviously more than the sum of its parts, and it acknowledges and respects the different identities, the particularism of the different portions of the realm, allowed to do things a bit differently. So you see how Catholicism is actually more respected in the UK than the Republic of Ireland, with the papal state visit some years ago, with the fact that abortion has not been imposed on Northern Ireland. It's up to the Northern Ireland Assembly to decide to do that or not. And the UK always maintained an embassy in the Vatican, whereas the Republic of Ireland closed theirs. So the UK is obviously larger and richer. Now, it's true that there's a higher per capita income in the Republic of Ireland, partly, I suppose, because the UK spends on things like nuclear weapons, which is the ultimate guarantee that we'll never be nuked. And the thing is, the Republic of Ireland, well, you would obviously want to be under that shadow, because if Great Britain were to be nuked, then the Republic of Ireland would also be impacted. The UK is a part of many, many international organisations, the Commonwealth, NATO, and we could talk about various cultural ones, the United Nations, we could be here all day, or FIFA, or whatever. It's just drawn from one of dozens of those, right? Again, might still be able to participate in the European Free Trade Agreement, and we don't want to get too much into the Brexit debate, but there will be advantages accruing from that. It is staggering that someone should say, ooh, I support nationalism, but not British nationalism. That's racist. You're allowed to be an Irish nationalist, but not a British nationalist. One is good as the other is evil. It's jaw-dropping. The thing is that British nationalism is not offensive. It's simply wanting to keep the UK as it is. So the Republic of Ireland's wanting to grab somebody else's land. People in the Northern Ireland, they can be Irish citizens if they want. If they want to be really Irish, they're allowed to go and live in the Republic of Ireland. That's that. Nobody's pressuring them to leave. So it's staggering that the other speaker should have said it was wrong for the United Kingdom to give effect to the will of the majority, which is just what he was demanding, saying, oh, this is the majority of our people, we want this. What about the Good Friday Agreement? 85% of people in Ireland voted for the Good Friday Agreement. Looking at Ireland as a whole, all 32 counties, 85%, right? That is a massive majority. No government ever wins that. No referendum in Ireland has ever been passed by anything like 85%. So it is a partitionist agreement. It's a pro-union agreement, recognising that Northern Ireland is legitimately a portion of the United Kingdom. People often talk about perfidious Albion. It was grossly offensive, that Anglophobic trope. In this case, well, let me say perfidious Dublin. I'm not talking about Irish people as a whole, but in the Irish government and some of the political elite, constantly welshing on these agreements, reneging on all the agreements, the Treaty of 1921 and 1925, when the South renounced its claim to a bit of Northern Ireland, just in return for money, or let's say even the 1922 election, which upheld partition, or many subsequent elections, and on and on. So there's been a very bad faith on the behalf of the Irish government and nationalism generally. So Ireland ought to respect plebiscites, respect Brexit, just as the Irish government doesn't honour the will of the Irish people. When the ordinary people don't get it right and do the way they're told to vote by the elite, voting against the Treaty of Nice, voting against the Treaty of Lisbon, in both cases people forced to vote again until they do as they're told by their political masters. It's nauseating that someone who's so viciously anti-democratic should try to deny the people of Northern Ireland their wish to remain within the United Kingdom. So I'll take no lectures on democracy and probity from someone who upholds such a grossly hypocritical and nauseating policy. So look at the Treaty of Lisbon. Now, the other chap sounded like a Europhile, so presumably he's an ardent supporter of the Treaty of Lisbon. The Treaty of Lisbon enshrined the right for all member states to leave at any point. So the Republic of Ireland granted the UK permission to leave the EU. Now, the UK wasn't bound to leave the EU, had that option, and indeed the UK chose to exercise that option. So therefore there can be no complaining about the United Kingdom doing as she's absolutely entitled to do so. So it's actually the Republic of Ireland should take a lesson in democracy from the UK and not the other way around. In the United Kingdom, the will of the majority is actually being put into effect. Look at the Treaty of Maastricht, passed by a plebiscite in the Republic of Ireland through cheating by the Euro-fanatic elite. The Irish Supreme Court said that public money had been illegally spent to bolster the pro-campaign, the Yes campaign. Despite that, the result was not overturned, it was not rerun. So it's questionable whether the Republic of Ireland is rightfully a member of the European Union at all, because Maastricht was the treaty which founded the European Union. So we had a united Ireland. Nationalism ruined that. There's a Republican terrorist campaign around the time of the First World War. It wrecked that. There was Irish unity in the geographical sense and every other. And unionists and nationalists beside each other in the British Army, looking forward to a peaceful Ireland of cooperation after the war, possibly home rule, well, certainly for at least 26 counties, maybe for the whole of Ireland. And the Republicans, they launched their insurrection, and that turned people at each other's throats. Ironic how the Eire, being anti-English as well, has killed thousands and thousands of Irish people through the 20th century, far more than English people whom they've killed. So it was the South that opted out of a united Ireland, not the North. The North stayed where it was, within the UK. And the North had home rule just as a sop to nationalists. Unionists didn't want it, but everybody got something. Unionists got to stay in the United Kingdom, and nationalists got home rule. You can't have everything you want. So Dublin moved further away from the United Kingdom by not paying the land annuities in the 30s, by declaring a republic, by pressurising the British Army to withdraw from the south, being allowed to have 3 bases in the south after 1921. Northern Ireland was twice publicly offered to De Valera, and he twice refused. So this is what is so staggering and indeed sickening by this cant from Irish nationalists saying, oh, no, we want the North. When it's actually offered you on a silver platter, you turn your nose up at it. So you can't have it both ways. This banging this nationalist drum, pretending you care about the North, you don't give a fig about the North. So illegal occupation, my foot. It is as illegal as can be. It is as moral as can be. The UK has often cooperated with the Republic of Ireland for decades. Irish citizens were privileged, the only people from outside the Commonwealth to have the automatic right to live and work in the UK and indeed vote. Now, it's true that the Republic of Ireland gave that to the UK in return, but very, very few people from the UK were moving to the Republic of Ireland. The traffic was almost entirely in the other direction. There were Irish people in the UK armed forces, and their valuable service was fantastic. But the UK cooperated with the Republic of Ireland on waterways, on transport, on lighthouses, long before the European Union. There was even free trade from the 60s onwards, before either state joined the European Economic Community. So there can be fantastic cooperation after leaving the European Union. Just needs a little bit of goodwill. So nationalism is so often cutting off your nose to spite your face and just being Anglophobic, just doing anything to escape the English. It's always England's fault. No matter what happens, it can never, ever be anyone's fault in Ireland. In fairness, there are bad English people. There are English people who've done terrible things in Ireland, but it's not always the Englishman's fault. So, you know, what is the basis of our separate Irish identity? Is it the language, which most of us don't actually speak? All right, we have to learn it at school rather than reluctantly. We all know the lingua franca of Ireland's been English for centuries. Contrast that with Wales, which has been rather more effective at reviving its language. 25% of the Welsh speak Welsh on a daily basis. In the Republic of Ireland, only 2% of people speak Irish as their main language. So being Anglophone has been a massive boon to us all around the world. And it always amuses me to read these ultra-nationalist papers in Ireland, Saoirse and so on, which are mostly written in English. These people who are so purely Irish, even they speak English most of the time. So mainstream nationalism obviously is an honourable tradition, but I'm afraid more than a few mainstream nationalists have been in cahoots with terrorism, and all this incendiary rhetoric by Sinn Fein these days, supposedly a constitutional party, is playing into the hands of dissident Republicans who drag us back to this bloody conflict of the past. So it was grossly insulting to hear that tripe about British nationalism. Now, the extreme end of any nationalism is very distasteful. But British nationalism is much broader than the other person allowed. There's civic nationalism. There are many races and faiths in the UK. If it is so racist, why are people literally dying to come in as illegal immigrants, as well as legal ones? So the UK is very ethnically diverse. The Republic of Ireland is so prosperous. Why is there not so many people moving there? So anyway, the UK respects Irish identity. The Irish language has got its protected status. You can learn Irish in the UK schools. There's Irish words written into British passports, for goodness sake. So the other speaker was talking about being independent. Independent in the EU is an oxymoron. Does he have no idea what the European Union is? It is a super state. It is a sovereign state. You could argue it's a good thing, but you can't argue the member states are independent. What did Irish nationalists and Irish Republicans want? They wanted independence. To paraphrase Patrick Pearse, in calling for the European Union, you may be preaching a safer and a saner gospel, but you are not preaching the same gospel as nationalism. That is not nationalism. It might be European nationalism, but it's not Irish nationalism. So Irish nationalism is it falling over itself to pool its sovereignty with Bulgaria and Latvia and so on, just to try and separate from England. It makes no sense at all. It's completely unpalatable. It's flagrantly Anglophobic. Oh, we have nothing to do with the English, but we will with countries with whom we have almost no historical connection. And it's notable how in Ireland some people think that being, you know, Scots and Irish, they can be compatible, or being Scots and Welsh, that's fine, or even being Irish and Scots, Irish and Welsh, or even Irish and American, but not Irish and English, which is daft because, of course, most people in Ireland are at least a little bit English, and many people in England are a bit Irish. So nationalists have always been completely free in Northern Ireland. Nationalist political parties, people even aiming at the dissolution of the state, were completely free to campaign. Even through the IRA's vicious terrorist campaign, Sinn Féin was permitted to exist and stand for elections. I can't think of any other examples in the world where that was tolerated. It shows just how extensive human rights were in the UK, better than any other country on earth. So you see the Irish tricolour all over Northern Ireland. People can express their Irish nationalist identity in the north. That's fine. People can speak the Irish language, write it on street signs and so on. They do. No one's trying to take away our identity. Our identity has not been smothered. There are even Irish language words on the Lord Mayor of Belfast's chain of office. Or you took at British Army regiments, which are Irish ones, which always had the word Irish, or various parts of Ireland, like Munster or Leinster in the old days. In the name of the regiment, Irish language mottos like Fága Balla, clear the way. And playing tunes written for the lyrics of Thomas Moore, the Irish poet, not the English saint. And, you know, these Irish regiments in the British Army, their bands wear Irish kilts, play Irish pipes, and have an Irish wolfhound as the mascot. So being part of the UK wouldn't take away our identity at all. So lawfully, Northern Ireland is part of the UK. Most people don't want it to join the Republic of Ireland. It wouldn't do anything to improve the trade or economy or anything like that. Ireland's actually not even that small. It's amazing to hear the other side really demeaning Ireland. So for many of the reasons I've already outlined, I beg to oppose.